Yep.
Okay, so I'm at Drinkbox Studios talking with Graham, and we're talking about Severed. Tell me a little bit about Severed.
All right, so Severed is our new game that we're working on for the PlayStation Vita. It's a first-person dungeon crawler with touch-based sword fighting mechanics. It's set in this really surreal world with a lot of strange and unusual characters. You play as a young girl who's out searching for her family members, which she's lost in this world.
Okay, so you said touchscreen controls. So what are the type of things that you'll be doing? Like you'll be using the analog to move around, but what will you using the touchscreen for specifically?
So you'll see in the demo here that anytime you're fighting enemies, it's always using the touchscreen. You also interact with some of the environmental objects, like you can break pots, you can slash through vines. You can see here he's about to get a sword.
I like swords.
Yeah, from this strange tentacle-like creature.
Is that someone you'll be seeing again?
Yes. So the way we're presenting the story in Severed is kind of through like interactions with NPCs and in the environment. Not a lot of dialogue, but introducing the story to the player in very subtle ways, where they can kind of like get little pieces of it at a time and try and feel in what's happening. So you'll see that weird guy with the sword throughout the game.
Okay. Is he the antagonist, so you don't want to tell me? Or
No, he's not the antagonist.
Okay.
The antagonist is to be revealed.
To be revealed.
Yeah.
Okay. So what made you want to do a game in first person? I mean, Guacamelee works so well. It's 2D.
Yeah. So after we finished working on Guacamelee, we did some prototyping of different games, kind of like a game jam in the studio. This is one of the ideas that we prototyped out, and it was like we did it on PC initially using the mouse, but it was first person from the start during that prototype. So it's kind of outside of our wheelhouse. So like we spent a lot of time working on the tech and how to make it feel like a 3D world. Everything is actually built in 2D though. Like all the characters are 2D, all the world is 2D, but we build it in a way that we can wrap it around the player like in a cylinder. So when you spin around, it does feel like you're in a 3D world. When you walk forward, you see everything kind of parallaxing, so it does feel like a 3D world. But everything is actually built in 2D. So it does fit well in our engine.
And you mentioned a mouse. So are you going to be releasing it for the PC, or not just the prototype stage was an easier way to get an idea that was visual and playable?
Yeah, so at work, everybody has PCs on their desk, so it's just like an easier way to play the game. Without having to like load a build on the Vita and play it on the Vita. But the Vita is a much better experience. Playing with your finger is much easier than playing with the mouse. Just because you can move it around faster, you have more accuracy, quicker accuracy. It's actually quite a bit more difficult to play on the PC. Although it's not a terrible experience on PC, it is a lot better on the Vita though.
Well, if Guacamelee was any indication, I'm sure you will get this out to whatever you feel best suits it.
Yeah, that's right.
So there'll be no Atari Lynx version of 7 from Drinkbox Studios.
Maybe there might be.
There's going to be service in Atari, I guess maybe. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. So you want to walk through some of the combat for me?
Yeah, sure. So this is the first time in the demo where you have to deal with multiple enemies at once. At the bottom of the screen, you can see there's 2 little icons, one for each of the enemies that are in the room with you. And over time, they fill up with a yellow bar around the outside, so that's how the player knows who's going to attack next. In the center of the icon, there's like the enemy's health that's kind of draining out, so you know how much health they have left. So you can use the icons to determine like who's the biggest threat, who's going to attack next, who you can take out the quickest, who has the least health, that kind of thing. So we have enemies have different ways of attacking the player. Some of the enemies they do slash attacks, like they'll swipe with their arm, and the player has to parry against that to like open up the enemy to be counterattacked against. Other enemies, they'll do damage over time, so you have to like hit them to cause them to stop, to shrink down. This particular enemy, he's invulnerable until he's about to attack, and then he opens up, and you have to swipe in a specific direction to be able to hit him. His weak point is only available just before he attacks, and if you hit him 3 times quickly, then he'll close up and he won't attack you. But if you miss, he'll attack.
What was some of the influence of this game?
A lot of influences. A lot of like old school dungeon crawlers that we used to play The enemies were actually inspired initially by like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
My favorite game. I was going to ask that.
Yeah, and so like we wanted a little take, like we wanted every enemy to be unique and the player to have to like figure out how to fight each one. And then the sword fighting is kind of like Infinity Blade or like Fruit Ninja style combat. But then on top, to make that more interesting, we have the multiple enemy combat at the same time. So you have to manage who you're going to fight next, like who's the biggest threats, and swapping around between them.
So is there any way to evade attacks, or the best defense is a good offense?
Yeah, the only way you can evade attacks is by being offensive.
Okay.
By using your sword to evade attacks.
So when is Severed supposed to be coming out?
We're trying to get Severed out this summer. I mean, we're doing our best. So the game, we have the whole game built out in a first pass, very rough form right now that you can play through the whole thing. But now we're working on making that a lot of fun. We're working on balancing that.
I've heard people like fun.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Well, maybe fun is the most important thing for a game to have. So
You know what? I think you're right.
yeah. So yeah, that's what we're working on now. Like, there's long sections where it could be more fun. So we're working on trying to make that happen.
So you're adding the fun.
Yeah, we're adding the fun.
Adding the fun.
Yeah.
Pour in more fun. Get that bucket of fun and dump it in.
Sprinkle some cool over there.
There you go.
Yeah, and we're adding more story elements too, trying to like give the player more of an idea of the world that they're in. Yeah, those kind of things are the things we're working on now. So and trying to get it out by this.
Awesome. This is a great second and a half interview. Thank you.
Thanks.